Okay, good afternoon all. Welcome to part 2 of my series of lectures on management. I thought we'd start something slightly different today. This is a presentation that I did at the Surgeon General's Academic Day in Bloemfontein in 2017. So going back a bit, okay, and I'm going to fly through the initial slides because this is not the presentation I'm going to go through today. So I want to just show you a little bit of what is possible, right? So I want to show you a few things that you might or might not know. The difference between a RAMP, which is a repair and maintenance program, and a refurbishment, which is a complete redo of an establishment. We started off as a RAMP, and then due to some technical difficulties, that RAMP was cancelled, and we went on to a refurbishment, which is a complete redo of an establishment. Okay. In terms of the team, you can see we have quite a significant team, and then from TUMO, quite a lot of people. Okay, quite a lot of people involved. Design criteria, I'm not going to go into that too much. I want to talk about the design process. These are the questions we asked. What services are you offering at the present time? What services would you like to offer in the future? Does the space you have at the moment allow you to offer your services? And what changes will allow you to better serve your clients? So there was involvement from people on the ground level throughout the process to try and determine what it is that we can improve and how to improve. The timeline, okay, so the timeline was 54 months initially, it took longer than that. It was finally completed, it was expected in November 2018, eventually completed sometime in 2021, end of 2020, 2021, eventually completed. Contract value was 877,000 million, sorry. It finished off closer to the 900 and somewhat million range, but we have a completed project, okay? Because this has been for other consumption, I might not add in certain choice bits as I go along. From a technology perspective, we included the internal network, which is a 10 meg fiber backbone with VoIP telephones, one of the first military units that have had this. And for us to get to a 10 meg fiber backbone took a lot of negotiation, because at that point they were running on not megs, but they were running on kilobytes in terms of a backbone, and fiber between floors was unheard of. So this just speeds up the way we communicate, and the fact that we could add on our VoIP, one of the first SAMS institutions to have an additional network for internet. So we've got about 4 networks running through the hospital. A DoD network, which covers telephones and covers, and I stand to be correct, but covers telephones and computers on the same network. Then we've got our internet network. Then we have a complete separate network for CCTV and another network for our access control. So there's 4 sets of network cables running through with servers and all kinds of stuff. We added a lot of stuff which you see daily, so I'm not going to go through that. Okay, I want to get to this part, the refurbishment in pictures, because this is what spells it all out. This is what is visually represents what we managed to achieve. Okay. That, for those who might not know, was where we are sitting right now. So this is where the parking lot was. That was my parking over there. In fact, I had a parking here as well at some point, but I don't know why I was parked there at that point. That car. This, if you go stand where the smokers stand, that's I think the curb, that's the tree, and this here is where we are. But that's the next picture. That's part of the construction of the actual building and how this works, okay? And then this is taken off a cherry picker at a certain height, because the tree is behind me and I'm almost at tree height. This is a picture of this building from that side, before we occupied. Okay, this was what a reception area looked like in a ward. This is what it looked like. This was MOPD in on the 5th floor. That's what it looked like, converted to something like this. This was a consultation room, converted to something like this. This was a ward, and with these glass partitions and all this heavy wood, and what you're not seeing is the orange ceilings in places, and this was the inside of it to that. This was a ward, same ward, slightly different viewpoint, good difference. Okay, this is casualty. This is what it looked like before in the resus area to this, with our Lodox machine in the background. This was the casualty entrance. Spent many a day and night writing notes at this casualty desk, and also just listening to patients and things as you come in. To this nurse's station, doctor's station, completely opened up, completely different. This is the Lodox machine, for those who don't know how it works, but that's the entire duration it needs to actually do a scan. So that works out to, it's about 15 seconds. Okay, so that is a picture of the person on it, and that's the image it generates in 15 seconds. Okay. This is one of the clinic rooms where you had your where you had your bloods and things done, and your vital signs done. To this. This is this orange that we used to have everywhere. I can't remember which clinic and where this was specifically. That one. Wow. Wow. Okay. To this. So this is what the difference is. This was the library. The library is where behind where the hairdresser is now. This was part of the hedges. The library, the hedges was part of the library, basically. That space there. To this. This is theatre. I don't think I've got pre-theatre photos, but theatre with all the screens on the wall, all the different things, with the outside window access. One of the few theatres where you will get daylight in from outside, where you can actually stand and operate and see what the weather's like outside, as opposed to come out and realize, oh, it's gone dark. This is the recovery area in theatre. Okay, so I'm going to show you two photos, right? I'm going to go back and forth between them. So this is the first photo here, and that's the second photo, and what's the difference? That one, this one. That one, this one. Hands up, anyone? Any differences? Is there a difference?
Yes.
What's the difference?
To me, the second one is so bright, and you can see that there's a change with the first
Years
one.
later, so it's taken years apart, a few years apart in terms of photo quality. So yes, obviously photo quality. What else? Any difference?
No, why?
So this part at the bottom here, this here, is where the MRI is and the CT scanner is. So part of the refurbishment to save costs, we built that first, moved the scanners in there, so that we could actually incorporate it. But look how beautifully that line follows through. And look how the line follows through. You actually don't even know it was added in. So that was beautifully done by the architects. All credit to them for doing it. And also the cost saving measure it gave us, because the insight to say that for the CTs and MRIs and the cost it takes to actually bring it in. And the MRI was brand new and installed into this building. In the first military institution that has an MRI. One more still doesn't have an MRI. 3 more, I don't think is going to get an MRI. Okay. We went to the point where we actually had an extended landscape plan. We actually had all of these things sort of laid out. These were the pictures of the trees and stuff that they bought, and then they came and put in for us. So it took a lot of work. I'm showing you this to show you that anything is possible, and that anybody can do something like this, and this is the potential you have within you. So I didn't know I had anything in terms of potential to get anywhere close to this. For 5 years of sitting next to an architect, I was drawing plans like nobody's business. Bringing us on today's lecture, hospital administration as a broad term. Okay? So I started updating the scope, and then I got bored because you're going to see the slides anyway. So we're going to start with hospital administration. Now, as a broad topic, what does it mean? Administration, as it says, in the military sense, is defined as that function of command which deals with the organization, discipline, and well-being of men and provisions, maintenance of materials and troops. So it says a few things there. It involves the 3 M's. Men, in this case, see it as HR, okay? Material and money. So, but once the 3 M's, it doesn't say who men, it says men. So see it as yourself included, please. Hospital admin is a special branch, demanding and becoming more complex day by day, because a hospital is a complex situation. 24/7 of 24 hours, 7 days a week of operation, with various levels of staff and training, and even in areas where you think you've got adequate staff, you might have people who have just started and people who are now finishing off. So you've got that whole wide range of skill level in between. The complexity of the hospital organization in terms of equipment and maintenance, and then the intangibility of outcome of healthcare. Never guaranteed. You do a computer transaction, you know it's going to work, not work. You're not going to be sure about what an outcome of a patient is going to be at any particular point. The secret is not the knowledge of the administrator, but how the administrator uses his personnel's strong points. So this is what I touched on the last time. Know your people, know your weaknesses, know your strengths of your people. Now you see in a completely different form, you see what I mean by that. I don't understand my second line. No human resources. Oh, sorry, that's what it means. If there's no human resources, there's no organization. So in essence, everything is built on the people. And this is my argument that I have constantly when they talk about our defense budget and they talk about the fact that our personnel bill is whatever cost it is. But they don't seem to realize that without the people involved, you're not going to get anything. So yes, 68% of our budget is in fact human resource, but it's grown to 68% from 40 or 50% because of a decrease in allocation. People aren't seeing that part of it. They're just seeing that we're spending more money on staff, but not the fact that we're getting less money in. Therefore, we can't just get go of people. We still have a mandate to fulfill. Short staffing is rampant. We know this. Okay, so we have HR, log, our other support services, or particularly support services, very low staffing. Our nursing department also starting to improve, but very low staffing. Patient admin, losing people hand over fist in terms of not losing jobs or leaving, but because of natural attrition. People are retiring, and we're losing years and years of experience within that short period people are going. So what's an administrator? An administrator is an enabler and coordinates how all the disciplines fit together. Now remember, I showed you that cog the last time, those 3 cog wheels where things fit together. That's how everything works. The administrator is somebody who has to have an overarching picture of what happens. And this is where hospital administration is so important, because it is not whether you are clinical or whether you are support. You have to know both. You have to know how they fit together at all times. You cannot, as a clinical person, just throw your toys and say, they haven't done this. You need to understand how the system works on the other side to best make it work for you and your patients. This continuous interaction negates strengths and weaknesses, because if you continually are talking and continually understanding of where there is a strength or weakness in the system, you will and those strengths change, those weaknesses change. So you have to be abreast of it at all times. And as you continue to interact with your counterparts, you can best decide the course of action of how things can improve. One of the things we need to look at is material management, and this is logistics, right? Materials can account for as much as 40% of expenditure. And if you look at our budget and you look at how much money we have, for example, for chemotherapy drugs, or for drugs per se, you look at what we have for medical consumables, millions. Tens of millions. And that can be up to 40% of our total budget. It's not quite as high because our staff budget is quite a high percentage of what we have, but I'll explain to you why, because our total allocations have decreased as we go along. Managing personnel takes so much time and effort, this can be neglected. What did I say to you in the first lecture? I said to you in the first lecture, what is the worst part of my job? Working with you. Working with my colleagues. That was the worst part of my job and still remains the worst part of my job, because you still have to manage personalities, you still have to manage all interactions, you have to manage weaknesses and strengths amongst people before you can start getting what you want. If it was an automated process where you just say, buy this, do that, done. But it's not. So you have to factor that into what you do and how you do it. Scarcity of resources is a universal problem. Speak to anyone, any country, any military, any organization, any state-run organization, you're going to have the same issue everywhere. And often not due to lack of funds. Sometimes it's just a lack of being able to purchase. Sometimes it's an inability to utilize the funds in time because of things like either red tape or it is a whole vast range of things. But personnel can also come into this, that you can't actually spend the money. Purchase cost, storage cost, and shortage cost are all different parts of material management you need to understand. Firstly, what does it cost to buy what you're doing? What is the storage cost of it? And can you store it without destroying it in the appropriate manner? Now, I'll give you a classic example. We were purchasing hydrochloric acid and chlorine for the pool in Biokinetics. We were storing it in log. And a couple of times I went into the stores and I couldn't breathe. And I looked at some of the items that were being stored. The shelving was getting rusty. The computer box was being corroded, and the person behind the door was constantly having a bit of a chest problem. And that was the fumes from the chlorine and from the hydrochloric acid mixing and causing grief. So we moved that out. Okay, so storage cost. We haven't lost shelves, but one of that computer box is probably corroded inside and out. So there's a storage cost there. Expiry dates, depending on medication or other things that you purchase. How soon will it expire? Can you use it before the time? And if you lose any of it because of expiry date, okay, what is the cost that you've lost? Because you can't tell the company take it back. They're going to say, how have you stored it? You're going to have to use it or get rid of it yourself. And then shortage cost. I've spoken a bit about, we're going to talk about hospital-acquired infections and other things. So shortage cost. What is the cost to the patient if I don't have the medication? So currently, if we don't have certain medications, the patient has to do a buyout. And if they can't afford the medication themselves, to buy it, to be reimbursed at a later stage, maybe months later, they don't get the treatment benefit of the medication you prescribe. So that's shortage cost to the patient. Okay? There are things that we can use as scientific approach to material management, like the ABC and VED analysis of how you manage stock. And despite my log colleagues being at the table, I am going to delve into this at some point. So I am going to give you a management on inventory management, a lecture on inventory management using the ABC and the VED analysis of how the stock must be and what the stock should be. Okay? Just don't ask me VED right now because I actually knew it and then I forgot to write my notes properly. What's VED? We'll come back to it. So success and failures are decided on optimal utilization of finances. You get your budget. Now the way we budget, and this is also something we'll cover at some point, right? Because we're getting into the budget cycle as we're going along. You budget 3 years in advance. So the budget we're spending in 2026, we wrote up and budgeted for in 2023. So that's 3 years in advance, okay? And that budget takes into account what you project you might require based on what you did in the years before, bearing in mind in 2023 your budget was drawn up the years before. And you add 15%, which is your inflation cost and medical inflation cost to certain things and a lower inflation cost to other things, and you get some idea. But what you budget for and what you actually get are 5 different things, because your allocation for the hospital will change depending on how much money SAMS get, how much tertiary gets, and how much the other different units will take off. So you see where it goes down. So you won't get what you asked for, you then just have to utilize what you have most cost effectively. Budgeting means nothing if you don't plan your spending. Like I said on the previous slide, sometimes you have the money but you haven't actually managed to spend your money, if you don't have a spending plan or buying plan on how to do this, you're not going to get through that. We can only in our procurement delegation spend 100,000 rand per set of procurement that we do unless it's on contract. If you need R1 million worth of a consumable, you have to purchase 10 times, 10 months in a row, and 2 months are written off. November, December is written off out of your period, because in that time they say you may not procure. So you have to plan from the first day that you have the money to purchase. And we're not always able to do that. We're not able to do that. And if you don't spend the money, it's your own fault. So you give money back to Treasury. So we don't roll over. So at the end of the month, when you've decided you're saving 5 grand, you buy tyres. Tyres cost you 4,600 rand. Next month you got 400 rand surplus. You save 5,000. You pay 4,600, you got 400 rand surplus. You can use that money next month for something else. End of the financial year comes. And in fact, we're going through a process now where they're going to, we call it Hoover, where they mop up all our money. They draw our money for the different series, they centralize the funds, you've lost your money. You can ask for something with detailed motivation. End of the financial year, if you've still got money left, you've been foolish. You should have spent your money. You should have reallocated, reshuffled into areas where you can spend your money. And when we look at this in different ways, we'll look at, I'll show you actual expenditure plans. I'll show you our monthly expenditure report. You can see the different series, you can see the money allocated, you can read all of those things. Okay. As an organization, hospital as an organization, what does a hospital as an organization do? It turns policy into action. So we know that we are driven by paper. There's a lot of things that we need to look at. Long pamphlet, this, HR policy, that. Even the JDP that I spoke about before in terms of how we outsource patients and what we outsource patients for, and the amount of visits they're allowed to have, and can they have 1 hearing aid or 2 hearing aids, and when can they have more than one? We have to turn policy into action. Systematic bringing together of interdependent departments which form a unified whole, in which authority, coordination and control may be exercised to achieve a purpose. What is our purpose? And I should know our purpose. To serve the patients as they come through the door. That's our purpose. Okay? An organization is the anatomy or structure. Administration is the physiology or process. So the bare bones of an organization is the, if you look at the hospital as an organization per se, the word organization is the bare bones, it's the bones. That's where everything hangs off from. But the actual administration is how it works. That's how the heart pumps, how the blood moves through the system, how the muscles move. That is the administration which pulls it all together. Okay? What are the principles of organization? Hierarchy. I explained this before. I said there has to be, well, within the military is a rank structure. Within any organization, and this that I'm trying to impart to you comes from a military handbook on hospital administration. It talks about hierarchy because it believes in hierarchy. Span of control. The span of control is where does it start, where does it end? And don't mix the two up. There shouldn't be an overlap. If it starts with one person, ends with another person in a department, don't have a third party involved somewhere. It needs to be one span of control. Okay? Unity of command. One person takes command. And that person has the overall picture and then sub-delegates it as required. Centralization versus decentralization. Let's not get me started about this one. They centralized a lot of different things over the years between ourselves and Pretoria. Our procurement, centralized. We know how well that's going. Central payments of medical accounts, we know how well that's going. It doesn't work in the bigger picture. We find that out after we've broken the system. We need to return back to it. So now we are returning back to decentralization, or to a part in decentralization, because you can't manage it in a centralized fashion unless you are technology heavy. And the technology is not caught up or not being brought into by the places that have centralized. So that's my viewpoint. Okay, so centralization versus decentralization. And then delegation. The first rule of management is delegation. Don't try and do everything yourself because you can't. Right? I've tried it. I've tried to do it myself and I can't. I can't do all of it myself. And this is where everyone else comes into the picture. This is why I'm having these lectures, to try and get to the point where everybody understands how they can be of assistance and how they can assist me or assist management in trying to get the job done. But within your own departments as well. Please understand that you need to be able to delegate. If you can't delegate, that's where the first problems come in. Okay. What are the 10 commandments of a good organization? Definite and clear-cut responsibility. I cannot say to the 3 people across the table there, and I broadly look at you and I go, okay, you are taking care of grass cutting next week, and I walk away. And then between the 3 of you go, what does grass cutting mean? What equipment do we need? No man, you're a man, you take the grass cutting. And okay, but I don't actually know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. And I've got my own job, and you didn't point at me, so I'm walking away. Clear definition of what needs to happen. Okay, the 5 W's. Who, what, why, when, what thereafter. Appoint somebody. And tell them clearly what it is that you want to do. So clear and definite and clear-cut responsibility. If you don't know what you want done, how do you tell the people to do what you need them to do? You can't. You need to understand it yourself first. Okay? Responsibility coupled to corresponding authority. Cut the grass. Okay? And the cars? No, you need to speak to someone else to do it. But the fact that you're thinking the cars must be moved in the days that you cut the grass means that you're thinking clearly about it, but now you need to go buy someone else to get that done. Cut the grass, cut all of the grass around the unit. On the days that you cut the grass, you may speak to corporate communication and put out a notice to move cars. Clear, and you define the responsibility, you give them corresponding authority to do so. Okay? No change to scope of responsibility without understanding the knock-on effect. You may not speak to Corpcom. Don't speak to them because you made a mistake the last time. And then knock-on effect is the window is broken because you didn't speak to Corpcom to move cars because you weren't allowed to. The knock-on effect. Understand, you remove authority. What is the effect of it? That means you yourself need to have planned it all the way through if you're going to delegate. Responsibility should be delegated to the specific extent. I didn't say trees, so don't touch the trees because you're not an horticulturist or a botanist. You don't understand how the trees, when they shouldn't be cut. That is a different level of responsibility. I said cut the grass. Be fined. Orders to the HOD and not the subordinates. And this is where you go. You are the HOD of grass cutting. Those are your 2 subordinates. You decide how and what they do. I then, all 3 will be standing together and I go, why is the grass not cut? I shouldn't be talking to you. I should be talking to the HOD who is appointed. If you bypass that system, you are going to cause problems. There should be only one command from above and not multiple commanders. The minute you start allowing multiple commanders and many speaking to the subordinate, you've lost it. Because now the subordinate doesn't know where to listen. They don't know which one to listen to, or what task they should do, or when they should perform their task. You've lost the plot completely. Criticism of subordinate in private, praise in public, but counsel in private. Something we should all learn. Okay? I am not guilty of this. Because when I do criticize in public, when I counsel in public, which is the opposite, when I criticize or I point it out, I do it for a valid reason. And I will say to people up front, today I'm going to point this out because everybody needs to understand that your shortcoming is why we're sitting in the predicament we're sitting at the moment. But, flip side, when somebody's done well, don't take them aside. Oh, you've done brilliantly. 3 days before you were screaming at them, now you want to praise them, but privately. You praise in public. Counsel in private. Okay, so behind the door, or take them aside, please. No difference about authority or responsibility should be considered trivial. When you've handed out the authority, okay, all the responsibility, when the people come and talk to you about it, consider everything they say. It's not a trivial matter to just say, oh, okay, just do what you want, or manage it. No, you have to understand what the issue is. Sir, we've spoken repeatedly to a car which ends in a ZN number plate, who parks in the disabled bay. But this person doesn't want to move their car. We don't know what more to do about it. That is where you need to intervene. It's not trivial. You might consider it a small matter, but you need to intervene. You need to say, okay, I will deal with the matter. You've elevated to my level. You've done everything that you can. Work should be constantly supervised. And this is the difficulty. You're delegating it, but why are you supervising it? You delegate it because you don't have the time. But this is where your level of supervision comes in. You put in proper checklists. You say, I would like the front cut by Wednesday. The sides cut Thursday. Job finished Friday. It's easy then. You go Wednesday, well, the front's cut, it's done. Thursday, the sides are not cut. How are you going to finish the job by Friday if you haven't done that? And there's no logical reason not to. So early on, you intervene and say, where are you? Why have you done it? Have you planned for the extra work for Friday? So you don't have to supervise in detail. You've got a plan for your supervision. Yes? And good personnel admin and welfare. Know your people. Know what's happening in their life. That doesn't mean that you go troll their Facebook page every second day and see what's happening. But you must understand who your people are. You must know when somebody walks in through your door. Jack walks in a blue bull stop. You know, she's looking for nonsense. You know that she's a blue bull supporter. She can be of no value to you otherwise. You can't delegate anything to her. But you know that of her now. So you try and work to her strengths. They've got no line-up work anymore. Matthew's gone. Their wings are maybe okay, but their forwards and scrums are good. So you give her the kind of stuff that works with scrums. Because you understand she's a blue ball supporter. The RSM is an All Black supporter. You give him nothing. But you understand, you know your people. You must understand everything about them, not just their work. You must understand everything about them. If you pick up a common mistake in the CSW, you need to ask yourself the question, do they understand what you're saying, or is your red pen actually just going to waste? Call them in and explain that space that I'm indicating here must be there. Okay, if it's not there, what are you understanding by my red line that I'm making here? Are you understanding that I'm saying there must be a space? Try and figure out what the next point is and why they're not doing it. So understand your people, work with them that way. Okay. What are the managerial functions? Your main aim is the best patient care. Remember, that is universal. That's something that we're not negotiating on at all. It's a balance between policies, procedures, and the active management of personnel to get the job done. So you are busy playing a juggling act the whole time. Okay, so today you're looking at somebody's face and you're going, I'm not going to get much work done today. Okay, so let me go this route rather to get things done. So you're balancing the management of the person versus the policy versus the deadline. So sometimes you have to just say, no matter what the person is all about and what their mood is, today you are doing the job whether you like it or not because my deadline is here. And then tomorrow you can talk about the other things and give them an easier task. Managerial actions are planning. As I've said, if you haven't planned and don't know what you want as an outcome, don't expect everyone else to suddenly do it for you. Organizing, staffing, leading, controlling, and then the coordination of the tasks and of people and different departments. Those are all the different functions that you have to perform. There are 3 types of skills to be able to perform a managerial function. Those are technical skills, human skills, and conceptual skills. I go back to the first presentation I showed you, the one with the model hospital or the tumor as you see it. Here's the conceptual skill. Okay? What did you envisage it should look like? Did you picture of the plan that it would look in this manner? If you couldn't, and this was part of what we tried to explain to people when we were going through the plan, the architect, myself, Colonel Bax and others, if you can read the plan, can you actually understand that there's a corridor here? When there was one going that way, it's now going straight. Off this corridor are 3 rooms leading off. Whereas once you had one 6-bed ward, you've now got 4 consultation rooms coming off the side. The conceptual plan is there. So you need to be able to sell the concept. What is it that we want to achieve in the bigger picture? Okay? How you get there is the technical skill to read the plan, to do the computer transactions, or to give them the skills they need. And the human skill is to impart that in a manner that they go off thinking to themselves, he's actually human, he can think. He's not just barking at me. Okay, so there is a balance between all 3. You need to be able to do all 3. Okay. Now, by the way, this doesn't work on me, okay, so I'm just saying up front. How do you deal with difficult people? Let me get into the end of the that first part was an introduction to hospital management. So we had a few of these come through our office in the last 2 weeks. So I thought, let me just try and touch on this. This is a common problem in a leadership role. It can be your superior, subordinate, patient, client, can be any of those things. And the person on one particular day can be easy. 10 minutes later, totally different person. We have frequent calls to my secretary to ask what is the weather like in that office. Is it cloudy, sunny, rainy? A standard answer is come and find out for yourself. But you know, if you are prepared, you bring a rain jacket, you bring an umbrella, and preferably your own tissues, we run out. What do you do when you're faced with someone, you're sitting at the other end of the table, standing across the desk, and he's basically fuming at you, and he's stay calm. First point is stay calm. Sometimes you feed the monster by reacting. So stay calm. That's the first point. Focus on facts. You cannot argue with facts. So you listen to what the person is saying, and then you ask yourself, okay, what are the facts of the situation? Set limits. The limit is, I will deal with your complaint that you're speaking about now. But do not tell me, as one of the patients did on the telephone recently to me, all the military personnel are overpaid, underworked, stupid, who shouldn't be in a job. And started swearing in particular about a particular person behind a desk in a clinic. The limit was, I will not tolerate a discussion. We're talking to a military member himself who is trying to assist you. So if you've got that opinion, maybe you should put the phone down and not talk to me right now. Because I will not be spoken to like that. Firm, not screaming, but you're setting a limit. The limit was set, the person came back, said, okay, maybe that was over the top. Do not play the game. Don't react to insults. Jack, very kindly, on the stairs after she really scrambled me off the ball, stood there and said, I'm sorry I'm wearing a Blue Bull t-shirt in her mind, but you know what, I'm not going to feed into this at all. I'm just going to stand here, let him say what he wants, and I'll go and do my work. Because if she did say anything, it would have been another 5 minutes of discussion about the Bulls. So she didn't do that. She stood back. Don't feed the monster. Not that I'm a monster. Don't feed the monster. Don't play the game. Don't react to insults. Don't start saying, yeah, but the store was ease, and leave it alone. Move away from it. Listen with intent and make notes. And this is the one thing that has helped me over the years. Okay? So what was the patient complaint? The patient complaint was that they will not issue me a script. Why won't they issue you a script? Get to the bottom of it. Because the patient's not seen here. Because I choose not to use your service. I use a private service. Why can't you use a private service at the moment? The man's gone on holiday and he's left nobody in charge. So now the frustration is, a father needs to get a daughter medication which she requires, but his system that is created is broken down. I thrown the ball at you. So that's actually what you want. What is the outcome that the person requires? This instance wants a script. That's all he wants. He wants a script. But we all know that it's not that easy. If you don't know the patient, if it's got medical legal complications, if you have the medication available in the pharmacy, yes or no, are you willing to prescribe something for somebody on the hearsay of someone else who you've never seen before? If it's a standard Panado, you might get away with it, not a problem. But if you start getting into other drugs with their schedules around, it might be a different case completely. Shift to solutions. Have you considered speaking to his practice? Has he left somebody in place? I can't get anyone on the phone. Have you used someone else in the past in private that you might explore? Have you considered bringing your daughter for a consult? Have you considered this? So shift to solutions. But for you to know solutions, you need to be able to think on your feet. Because you're not getting back to the person. Okay? Protect yourself and your own energy. It gets to a point where it drains you so much that you actually just can't anymore. So what you get to that point, you say to the person, and this is my standard route, okay, when I don't, and I can't answer you immediately, my outcome that I do is as follows. May I please have your name, your contact number, okay? May I have your force number? May I investigate this and come back to you with a definitive answer? But let me refresh my mind. You require a script for your daughter who's never been seen at Tumulati Hospital, who you don't wish to bring in for a consult, but you wish us to assist you. Is that what we are talking about? Yes. Let me get back to you. And then you hand it over to someone else to get sorted out. Or you get the details and then you offer your own staff a solution. If your staff said to you, I'm not willing to do it, you say, you're protected. I'm not willing to do it, but will you call and offer solutions from a clinical perspective or another perspective that I might have missed? That's what you do. But you never hand it over fully yourself. That's easy on the phone. You can just say, oops, sorry, I can't hear you, phone goes down. Done. But when they're in front of you, that's completely different. There is the odd occasion where you might have to treat bluster with bluster. You know what bluster is, eh? Bluster is a chicken who's trying to show you that they're very, very strong. The wings are out, the feathers are up, there's a lot of noise, and they're plucking and they're kicking the feet and so on. So you're going to do exactly the same thing. You stand in front of them and you go, sorry, you won't speak to my staff like that. That is my staff. If you wish to speak to my staff like that, you speak to me. Now, what is your problem? And then it just calms down, usually. And most times, a little bit of bluster when required works. Okay? This is something you have to master very early on if you're in a management position. Because the buck stops with you. And if you've got subordinates, even more so, because you will have difficult people within your departments that you need to manage. So you need to understand how this works. Okay? Out of all of this slide, this last slide, protect yourself and your own energy. There is that whole saying, don't let him take your energy from you. Okay? Now you spend all this time and effort, and the whole next day you're sitting there with a headache, your blood pressure's up, you can't get any work done because you're thinking only about this problem. What difference is it going to make to your life? It's done. Let's move on. You have now not given focus to your actual work because you're still thinking about something that happened before. And in a minute I'll give you one of the other things which helps me with this, protect yourself and your own energy. Basic rules. Okay, these ones in italics, I'm going to leave, I'll continue the slide. Remember I said it will be updated. At some point I'm going to give you these slides. Okay, so you'll see that this will remain, these are ones that we said before. just very quickly, follow the rules, make sure you know the policies, do the right thing, even if no one's watching, walk the talk, patient is always first. Then do not expect of your people what you cannot do. Simple. Go and see the patient. Put up a drip. But 10 people have tried. We can't get the drip up. We don't have the thing to look for the veins. We need an ultrasound. We need this, we need that. If you yourself have the ability to drip the patient in that difficult circumstances, teach. Don't show them how. Show techniques. Use a PP cuff. Use hot water. Do all kinds of other things. But do not tell them, go and do it and get it done no matter what, if you cannot do it yourself. I'm using a clinical example. Use anything, for example, loading a authorization on the system. Okay? But why aren't you getting it done? I'm getting a fault here at this, and it doesn't want to appear on Colonel Ishmael's screen because I don't know what I'm doing wrong. You know the steps. You analyze it, you go, there are 5 steps. If you follow all 5 steps, oh, I'm only doing 4. What's the 5th one? This one. There it's appearing on the screen. Know your job well enough to be able to teach it telephonically. Give advice. Know your people, as I've said before. Basic rules. Treat employees like they make a difference, and they will. Okay? It's the way you treat people. It's the way you interact with them. There's a professional side. Yes, there must be. There is a modified side where you allow a little bit of personal interaction. And then there is a side where they know a completely different side of you. It's your choice to let them know which side of you are willing to show. But you must treat them well. If you don't treat them well, or show them that they can make a difference, they're not going to do it. What's the point? Nothing I do is ever good enough. Why must I actually do anything here? That's the attitude they'll have. Aphorisms. Okay, these are the short little things that you must know. In fact, today again, do I have it on here? I don't have it on here, but one of the other ones that I was taught very early on, it's much easier to say sorry than to ask for permission. That does not work with me, because I taught it to you. Doesn't work with me. So, just do the work that you're paid to do. You're not here to make friends. There are 3 sides to every story, your side, my side, and the truth. Do not put off for tomorrow what you can do today. Feel free to exercise your right to seek alternative employment. I must say that in a very recent document that I perused from a certain department, somebody who is sitting in this lecture, these words were used in a slightly different way, where the person actually offered the other person the assistance to complete ERP forms rapidly to ensure that the person's employment somewhere else or exit from the system is done well. So that was taken very well. The lectures have had some benefit. Work smart, not hard. I've told you this before. If you've got to do something 3 times, by the 4th time you need to have worked out how to do it. Okay? And automate the process in some other way. And then the quote for this one: if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Then you've gotten to the point where you're leading, okay? Because they want to be like you. You need to be able to set the tone and get to the point where they feel that's the footsteps I want to follow in. Toolbox. These are the things that you must have available to you at all times yourself. Teflon coating. That's the one that helps with your personal spirit and space and look after yourself, where they mustn't take your energy from you. That's the Teflon coating. That's where within 5 minutes after the conversation, you must have already, it's gone, it's done. Next, what's coming on? Because the next difficult patient's waiting. Either email or phone call or something else. So you can't waste energy on that 2 days later. You need to move on. Your skills, computer skills, communication, time management, military understanding, all arms of service, and then these last 2, build a database of required documents. So over the years, I've been asked questions on, for example, reserve force. How and what are we allowed to treat, and what can we and cannot we offer as services? I've got the policy, I've now saved the policy somewhere, so I can refer to it appropriately. What are the criteria for deployment? What are the criteria for registrar training? What is the policy on renal dialysis? You build up your database of documents. So back in the day, they were all, before we were so adept at scanning and electronic media, I've got them in files in my office that I can refer to. Okay. Consider online storage. Few things that have helped me over the years has been my H drive goes where I go. Now I think, oh, how's this man doing this? She gives me online access. No one knows about it. No. So before I go away on leave, I will update my H drive onto a memory stick, take it with me. Because I can't tell you how many times I have been on leave somewhere and get a phone call. Might not happen for you. I get a phone call to say, document so and so, there's a mistake, can be rectified. Or are you able to generate the following document? Or you remember 4 years ago you wrote this letter. It's now come up in the command council, they're discussing it. Do you have a copy of it? I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me, local and international. And if you've got the appropriate little dongle thing with your memory stick, you can search it even on your phone. But if you have Dropbox, and you've got some of the stuff stored in there, you're able to access it. Just be careful with online storage and different levels of restrictions of documents, please. Just make sure if it's generated documents you've got which are simple, it should not be a problem. But if you're talking about documents with confidential or higher levels of restriction, don't store them in places where they can easily be accessible, please. You always have that responsibility. Okay. Now, your opportunity for questions. Are there any questions?
What does EBD stands for?
BED.
BED is fine.
I actually went into it. It is for the vital, essential and desirable analysis of inventory management. It's a management technique that you use that classifies stock based on its operational criticality and the severity of impact if the items run out. So it is vital, essential and desirable. So your medical stock or medication of certain medication will fall under that. Then the ABC one again is in a similar thing as well. It's a different way of doing it. So that is that notes. Inventory ABC. Inventory analysis. So this is it's an inventory management technique that categorizes stock into 3 tiers, A, B, and C, and based on their annual consumption value and importance. So you will find the Pareto principle applies here, where it's 80-20. You'll find that 80% of your stock costs you 20% of your budget, but 20% of your stock can cost you 80% of your budget. So you'll have Panados which cost you R5 for 20, 30, 40 for a month's supply. But you'll get one chemotherapy drug that will cost you R5,000 per patient per injection, and they need 5 a month. So that's an 80-20 Pareto principle that applies to many different things. But I will be at some point showing you the various, actually how this works. And as part of the course that I did on this whole hospital administration, they actually made us go through the exercise of doing the ABC of stock analysis and putting it into tables and spreadsheets and stuff, and it does make a big difference of how you manage it. Okay. But the other thing is very simple with stock management. If you're utilizing 5 reams of paper per month, okay, how many reams of paper do you need for the year? 60 reams of paper. Okay, and when you get to a certain point, you must have 3 months of stock on your shelf of the reams of paper. That's 5, 10, 15 reams of paper. When you get to the point where you've got 5 reams left, you've got 1 month left, you build up your 3 month stock again. That's a simple way of doing it. You can analyze those things for yourself. And that's what you put in through to logs, and they can do it as well. Any other questions? Yes.
One of your 10 commandments of a good organization was only one command from above, not multiple commanders.
Yes.
What happens if you find yourself in a situation where you've got two commanders, they're both giving you different directives to follow at the same time? How do you manage that?
Are they at the same rank level, or is one below the other one?
One is below the other.
Go to the one that's higher. So you go to the one that's higher, and what you also do is you can actually stand your ground. This is the difficult part when you're in a subordinate role. How do you stand your ground? How do you tell the person who's giving you an instruction, who's already 1, 2, 3 ranks higher than you, I'm sorry, but the person higher than you is giving me an instruction. So you ask the question, I have been told to do this by Colonel so-and-so. And now you asking me to countermand what that person has asked me to do. Which instruction do I follow? Because I've been given the instruction from, call it the OC, to do the following. Does this instruction you give me, does it fulfill the requirements the OC has asked of me? Can I ask of you to please speak to him, or may we have a meeting together to get unified command? And usually, and this is not confrontational, this is just asking a question, how do we manage the problem that I'm facing at the moment? How do I manage it? Sometimes you have to make your own decision. Who's going to smack harder? What is you at that point will have already analyzed what is the outcome required. And the outcome, if I follow this person's order or instruction, is it going to get me where I need to be? If it's going to get me there in a slightly slower state, or it's still going to get me there, but will give me more information, maybe I should consider it. But is this something that I should take into consideration or not? If not, follow the route I've said. Ask for me to refer to you. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Could you please go to the slide with shortage costs and all the other stuff? Material
Purchase cost, storage cost, shortage cost. That one.
Yes, but would material be the same as equipment?
Yes.
So would we now put maintenance costs
Yes.
under purchase costs, or does it just
No.
follow?
Your purchase cost will go under shortage cost. So your maintenance cost is going to go under. This one won't fully work with equipment, but if you were to put it anywhere, you're going to put it under storage cost, because you're storing the device, utilizing the device. The storage cost is maintenance. Okay. The shortage, because there the shortage cost, which is cost to you, in this case to you, not the patient, will be CT scans not working. It's now costing 25,000 rand, no, 15,000 rand per CT scan after hours, and 10,000 rand during the day for a CT scan. So that is a shortage cost. So the storage cost is the storage of the piece of equipment, and the maintenance will fall into that. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Nandi, you may switch that off. Thank you very much.